This lesson is going to have a lot of slides in it, so I'll try to be brief on each one. But basically, it's about what I did back in, again, 2004 with special effects. And I kind of like these effects that I did back then. So maybe if you like this, you can pick up a few tips. I call this the funky filter, and what I did was increase the contrast but decrease the saturation. This is pretty nice, but the yellow light behind her is a little bit bothersome. So changing the image to black and white took care of that problem. Now this, I feel, is an unsuccessful image because her pose and her outfit doesn't really go with the contemporary look in the background. But when I placed her in front of this carpet type of mural thing and had her hold onto a shawl in an artistic way, I think this works much better. This has somewhat of a soft feeling, so I gave the next image a little bit of a softness, a little bit of diffusion. And here's the image with diffusion. It's very subtle, but I like things to be subtle. I feel that this image is really close to being good. It's a little bit bothersome to me that the motorcycle is a very saturated red and the background is not. So I decreased the saturation on the motorcycle and increased it on the barn. And now I think they tell the same story together better. I like this image a lot, and there's really no need to do anything to it, but sometimes it's fun to just play around with it to see what you get. So again, I went with the funky filter of increasing contrast and decreasing saturation, but I also added a painted edge along the outside, which was popular back in the early 2000s. I like this image, and sometimes when we're dealing with farms and barns, just going with a black and white or a brown tone is a good answer. So I did that on the next image. The red frame of the window is just a little bit disconcerting, so going to with black and white took care of that. Here's another image that's strong and stands on its own, but I've wondered what would happen if we would do some kind of a spiral or radial blur to get those lines of the broken glass to point to her face even more. And they did. I think the other one is a little bit better, but again, just an interesting technique to draw the attention to the person in the center. One more image with that window, and I wondered what would happen if I would texture that with some other thing that I photographed at the barn. Phooey. Don't like it at all. This was obviously the siding on a shed that they had there, but sometimes you just have to try stuff, but the days of doing that are over because it doesn't make sense. Here's another image that I'm happy with as is, but I'm always looking to try something else just to see what else we can get out of it. Once again, that funky filter of increased contrast, low saturation. And same place, and I'm going to do a technique that's similar to the last one, but I'm going to add some brown tone. I have an action that creates the brown tone from a black and white, and so I ran that after I ran the funky filter action. I don't have an after picture of this because this is the only one I shot like this. And I do like it. I like the sun splotching across her face and her body. So I figured I got it, no need to take more. Now I felt that this image needed something. I could vignette it a lot. A low-key vignette would be interesting. So that's what I did here. I also shifted the color of her top to go better with the background. And if you're going to do this, make sure that you do it both ways. Leave the original color and shift it to the color that you think works better, and let the client choose. Another image that I do like, it's got an interesting mood to it, but it definitely needs something. So I ran Lucis art on it, which was a popular program back then. These days, I think some local contrast type of filtering would work, maybe clarity in your raw conversion software, or Nik tonal contrast has a somewhat similar effect, but Lucis art had its own look that was interesting. By the way, I didn't have it really strong on her face. I masked off the effect on the face and skin, which is something I like to do. On this image, I do like it. I apparently ran diffusion on it, which is okay. Let's see what else we can get out of this. So I went back to the original Sharp file and then ran a little bit of my funky filter along with a painted edge. I mentioned earlier that on a farm, sometimes a brown tone works well. So we've got a little issue here in that her top is red and there's nothing else red in this image. So I went with a brown tone. I also added noise to it just to give it a grittier kind of old-time feeling. Speaking of old-time feelings, we're going to do that on the next image for the same reason. The red is not echoed in anything in the background. So I went with a filter to make it look like an old-time photograph. This was done, I think, by something called Professor Franklin or some program back then. But you can do that by just photographing photographs in an album and then just mask out the actual photograph and put the new one in. Once again, obviously, we've got the same issue, so let's handle it another way. And again, I went with brown tone, but this time I went with a higher contrast. Nothing really wrong with this image, but I just wondered what would happen if we gave that left side of the barn a little more saturation, a little more color. And I think it works fine. Either one is fine. Sometimes it gets a little too crazy, too nitpicky, but I do like the effect. And finally, once more with the same outfit, but again, there's nothing in the background to go with that red top. So once again, I went with brown tone and then added a rough edge on the outside. So there you have it. Lots of images, lots of choices, and that's what it's all about, choices and variety.